Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episodes of The Blacklist. So obviously, I'm going to try and kind of separate the two episodes, I'm going to be talking about both, but I'll kind of, try to keep one episode to the next. Obviously, the first episode is kind of an interesting, kind of little bit of a murder mystery kind of episode. I feel like it's the most directly murder mystery-esque one we've had in a while. It was kind of interesting because it's about like this serial killer who would kill people and then freeze them. The dude, Carlisle, was arrested. Even Reddington was like, yeah, I think this is actually him. That he's actually the killer, but now another crime has been committed while he was in jail. It's been like 6 years, and so it's like, okay, I think he hired someone else to do it so that he could get cleared. And it turns into this whole interesting case because all this started because there's a podcast called Thaw run by this woman named Kimberly, and she believes his innocence, and it's like, oh, there's all this evidence that, some things just kind of didn't line up. And it's kind of interesting, even like Reddington not listening to podcasts digitally is kind of old school tech he's using to listen to it. And it's like, because like it's cassettes and stuff, because for him, it's like, yeah, like, they can be, hacked into digital stuff. So for him, it's like, I don't even want that shows you how much Reddington is who he is, that he doesn't even want anyone to know, like, hey, I listen to this particular podcast, I guess, because you can trace the data that things are getting downloaded to. So I guess, it makes sense. It's just kind of interesting. You can't even listen to your own listen to podcasts that you like on digital. I even love you trying to explain it to Liz. She's like, I know what podcasts are. Like, you are literally the only one who's also listening to it on cassettes like that. So that was just interesting. But the case ended up being this very interesting thing. I kind of had a feeling, like, I like the kind of misdirected, the way they got it set up when Carlisle ends up getting released, because it seems like everything is pointing towards, like, the principal, or no, it was the teacher at the school. It just, because there was, like, apparently he was having affairs with multiple students, and I love his excuse later on being like, I didn't say anything because the fact of me having affairs with multiple students was a lie. I was having an affair with one student. It's like, okay, look at you, being so caught up on semantics like that. You're still in the wrong, but whatever. His justification for not coming out years ago was because, like, I would have lost my job, but now I'd rather lose my job than be put up as being, like, the number one suspect in all of this. So that ended up being interesting because everything pointed towards him. Also, that's kind of like a brutal way that, like, kill people, like freezing them to death like that. That's, Jesus, that sucks. And so everything kind of makes you go like, okay, so it's definitely Carlisle, especially when he goes to see Kimberly. And I'm like, I'm like, the twist is going to be that she's a killer, and lo and behold, it is. It's just like, the fact is that he kissed her, and then he's like, I'm sorry. I was like, everything's kind of making it seem like it might be him, but then she kissed him back and everything. I was like, yeah, I had a feeling moment then, because it was just kind of like because if she had pushed him away at first, I would have been like, oh, okay, never mind. Like, it's like, no, I was like, you're obsessed with him. Isn't that what this is all about? But another thought in my head was obviously like, she is the one who committed the current murders, but that's because she wanted him out because she was obsessed with him in that regard. But lo and behold, we find out, no, she's just been straight up obsessed with him forever, and she's actually the one who committed those murders all those years ago. Just because all those girls, it's like, oh, they were kind of they were distractions, and I had to get rid of them. And he's like, you're crazy. And she's like, don't call me that. It's like she's madly obsessed with him. Even Kimberly's stepfather is the one that she was stealing the nitroglycerin from. Yeah, and he just didn't call it in because obviously he was worried about what this might actually mean in the grand scheme of things. It's kind of crazy to think that that's what this was. It's so interesting because it just seems kind of like your, not everyday crime, because it's on some next level shit, but still it's kind of like it seems like something you would see in a typical crime drama or something like that. It just seems weird to almost see it in this, just because it was obsessed love was her motivation. It just seems so honestly normal compared to, most blacklisters they're kind of like, to be fair, like, they're doing sadly normal crimes too. I don't know why. It just so interesting that this is a blacklist case, interestingly enough. It does make the question why, I'm curious though. Obviously, once again, Reddington always gives cases because it means something. Like, there's something he's getting out of it. Maybe in this particular case, maybe it was. There have been occasions where it seems like there are some blacklisters he just gives a name just to be keeping the team busy, and it's like, oh yeah, we need to, Maybe it's just because, like, Reddington isn't a fan of serial killers and stuff like that, so it's like, oh, potentially putting another one back on the board, let's just remove that, which is interesting. I guess he's killed quite a few people, but he's not a serial killer, so, I think it's just, especially the people that are being targeted are innocent people, so, like, I think that's another reason why Reddington kind of stepped in this regard, but it's kind of interesting, because even he was kind of wrong about it. It's not like, oh, like, Carlisle had nothing to do with this. Luckily, they were able to save the most recent victim, as well as Carlisle, and arrest Kimberly. So now that's interesting. Like I said, I'm curious to see if there's any tie back in with Reddington, but I feel like this is probably just a case of you handle that. Obviously, that's just one side of this story. Another side of this is the big reveal. I was like, is Liz actually going to tell him? Like, she's going to go the entire episode, not tell him. It's like, nope. She lets it out. Like, nope. She actually told him, and you see this sudden look on his face, like, wait, what? You've never seen Reddington that dumbfounded before. He was just like, what? And she's kind of like trying to explain herself, and it's like, Dembe, you knew? It's like, yes. And she's like, no, it wasn't his fault. He was just trying to do what I asked him to keep the secret. And it's the whole thing of like, he's like, you sent me to jail. What did you think was going to happen? She's like, I didn't expect things to turn out the way they did. To be fair, she kind of admits it. She's like, I didn't care. I wanted to know the truth. That was the most important thing to me. That's all I cared about. And the fact of the matter is, that was me then. And, because I talked about that before, like, Liz's need for the truth and kind of revenge and finding out all that, like, it was driving her to the point she was kind of blinded by it. And it wasn't until she came so close to losing Reddington, she was like, holy crap, this has got real. Like, him going to jail and stuff like that, sure, but she didn't expect things to turn out the way it did. Because I think legitimate, she thought, like, oh, Reddington's got a whole bunch of contingencies, plans in place. He's going to get out of this situation, no problem. But it's like, he came that close to death. And for her, it's like, that's all that mattered to me before. But, it made me realize how much you were important to me. I don't care who you were then. All I care about is who you are now and what that means to me. And it sucks because it's sad. It's that, and it's a sad and hard lesson that Liz had to learn this episode, is the whole aspect of, like, sometimes, your need to seek the truth ends up causing more harm than good, keeping secrets and stuff like that. And she even explains it. She's like, I thought my secrets I had Dembe keeping were more important than Reddington's secrets. And now she's like, even she's kind of worried. I don't know what he's going to do with Dembe. Hell, even I was scared. I mean, once again, we have to think about the fact of the matter is, him and Kate went back decades. He still tried to kill her after her betrayal. And it's like, dude, and that's a sad thing. And that's a sad aspect of this whole situation. When you think about it in the grand scheme of things, that was connected to Liz's betrayal as well. And that's because Liz, she has a free pass. Nothing will ever happen to her because of what happened. Like any betrayal, because Reddington will constantly forgive her. But sadly, everyone else has to suffer the ramifications. Kate did, hell, even Dembe might, And that puts Dembe in this compromised position because for Reddington, it's like, I have to figure this whole thing out. He's like, why are you confusing loyalty with betrayal? Like, the fact of the matter is, my loyalty is to you. It always has been. My loyalty to Liz is part of that as well. And so he is like, I did what I did to protect her, which is what you would want. But for him, it's like, the thing is, this thing between us has become complicated now because of this whole circumstances. The fact of the matter is, you're the one person I could tell everything to. You, his closest confidant. And the fact of the matter is, you are my only friend, or you could be a mortal enemy. Basically, because Dembe is Reddington's biggest vulnerability. And so it's like, I have to figure out where this whole situation between us stands through it all. And so Reddington actually went to Liz's grandfather for advice with this whole situation, because he's kind of been in a similar circumstances of explaining, like, obviously, like, he went through a betrayal as well, kind of at the hands of a child, that being Katerina. Her betrayal hit him hard, and he had two choices. He could either get revenge on her or he could not, and he chose not to get revenge on her. And it's a whole situation of Reddington's like, oh wait, you're forgiving you out of a lot of people? And it's like, yeah, I forgave my daughter. And that's not, like, if you forgive someone, if you get revenge, you can just kind of live with that. But forgiving someone, I think for him, it's like, that's kind of a continuous thing. You kind of have to take it day by day of that whole forgiveness, especially because he's had to sit on that for nearly 3 decades. So, because at the end of the day, the reason why he did what he did, it's like, if you could say it to Katerina, he's like, it doesn't matter at this point in time. If you could, what would be the reason why you decided to help her, why you sacrificed everything. He left his life behind because he believed in everything he did. He believed in his country. He believed in serving his country. He was never a traitor, but because by proxy, because Katerina was one, they would have believed he was one anyway. So it's like, why be willing to give everything up? Why not just turn your daughter over? It would have just probably been easier that way. And it's like, why? Simply because I loved her, you know? And it's like, do you feel the same way about Dembe? And for him, it's like, the fact is, you know, Liz kind of gets a free pass, but for him, it's like, because I forgive her of everything. You, Dembe, the fact of the matter is, there's never, basically saying that there's never anything that Dembe could ever do wrong in his eyes. And he appreciates that, but for him, it's like, I still have to walk away. And he's like, I can't forgive you. And Reddington's like, why is, and I don't understand. He's like, I figured you wouldn't. I'm curious. I guess it's a situation of the fact is that Reddington was even pissed in the first place. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a combination of everything that they've been through. It's like their friendship and everything. And it's kind of that the fact is that things even got to this point. He can't forgive Reddington for allowing things to kind of get to this point. His need to keep secrets, all of it has come from that. And it's like, I understand, but none of this would have even transpired if you just told Liz the truth from the beginning. You had your reasons, sure, but I think that's what Dembe can't forgive. Like, maybe what, I don't know. Because for him, he was content with why he did what he did for Reddington, just because he understood what it meant. It was his bond. But now for him, it's like, I got to find a new path in life. I followed your path for a long time. Now I've got to follow my own. And I'm curious, will that path ever intertwine with Reddington's ever again? It's hard to say. I don't know. I'm curious what Dembe is going to do. Where his journey is going to take him next with everything, you know? And it's kind of sad because it's like, yeah, Dembe's not there with Reddington. The fact of the matter is, you know, I mean, it's better than the alternative. I mean, like, legitimately, and that's kind of a sad thing I think anyone can acknowledge. Like, there's a part of you that's worried he would have put a bullet in Dembe, which is kind of like, you would hope not. But the fact is that even have to cross your mind. Maybe that's what Dembe can't forgive. Is like, I had to literally worry whether or not you were actually going to kill me, get your revenge or whatnot. And it seems like Reddington isn't getting revenge on anyone. The fact is that I think it speaks volumes that he actually had to take time to actually think about all that too. So there's that. Then there's the whole thing with Wrestler running the prints from the coins from that candy machine or whatever. But no prints were found. He still got jumped by some dudes who were basically looking for him. It's like, oh, you ran his prints? Oh, the fact is they're still looking for him too, because obviously he's a traitor and stuff like that. So that type of stuff doesn't just disappear. Look at Reddington's situation. Still most wanted person for all the treachery he quote unquote committed. So there's that. But Wrestler, hearing everything Liz says, kind of tells her what he's really been up to. That is going to definitely be interesting. I doubt that we've seen the end of that. The fact is they came to Wrestler like that makes me think like obviously they're still looking for him, so they know that he's still out and about, that he's still potentially alive, so he's hidden for now, but eventually I think they will be coming for him. Maybe, but we'll see. But Liz sees the picture of her grandfather. She goes see him because it's like, yeah, she'd already met the dude before, and he's like, shouldn't you have more to say to your granddaughter? So that in itself is craziness. And then we get into the next episode. Which, side note, I should point out, it's so interesting. I like what they do with that thing of like they don't make them like Blacklister episodes in the sense that it's not like a Blacklist or the title of the episode. They've done it from time to time. I want to say they might have done it in season 4. I don't remember they did it last season. Maybe they did, but they definitely did it in season 4. I think it was the episode where we kind of get context in this episode too. It's the whole like Kate back in the day, her and Katerina's connection. I think they did it one like this in season 3. Where Reddington, it was like soon after Liz quote unquote died, you know, and so I can't remember. They might not even done a title card to that. I'm pretty sure they did, but it definitely wasn't a Blacklister thing. I think I had taken notice of it because they had never done that often. I think that might have been the first time in season 3 was they did it. Regardless, it's just kind of an interesting thing because it doesn't come up that often. It's still kind of a rarity, but nevertheless. Liz talks to her grandfather and learns what we can only assume is the truth, which I also got to talk about. The fact is, I'm still actually shocked. I was so certain. I was like, okay, whoever Reddington really is, he really is her father, that it isn't really Reddington. It's like, no, Reddington really is her father. Like, just even with everything kind of presenting itself, I was like, nah, there's got to be some BS in this. There's got to be something more to it. But it's like, no, it seems like there's still that part of my brain that's like, I'm waiting to be deceived again, you know? So that's why I'm still kind of not accepting the truth, even though it's in front of my eyes. It's still that thing of, I guess it's one of those things because I hung on to it in my head so long that's like, no, it's got to be true. It's like, no, it doesn't. Like, you know? So, but regardless, it's interesting kind of seeing and I love the line her grandfather says too of like, most people, you know, get their baptism done obviously when they're young, so it's easy, but Katerina had to go her entire life before being, you know, reborn, because when she went into the water, she came back out because either I guess she had a second thought. Maybe that was always the plan that she had set in motion, because she was supposed to go into the water and disappear. But I think when she came out of that water, she had a revelation. She had an epiphany, like things changed. And she ended up at a shelter. And we ended up meeting her buddy from the Russian embassy, which is interesting. Side note, isn't that the same actor who played Nolan in the TV show Revenge? Which I find that funny. I'm pretty sure that's the same actor, which is interesting. Like Revenge and you know, it's just interesting that I tie that together, just because, like, you know, Revenge and this show and everything. Nevertheless, it's just interesting. It is interesting to kind of see who Katerina is. That maybe I don't know. Like, it's the thing of like, you wonder like a lot of stuff that she does. I think she is good natured in what she does, in the sense of like the woman she was helping out. It's like, okay, she could have just stayed quiet, but the woman, her boyfriend was abusive, and it's like, no. I can understand what she's saying. She's saying that he's tight with the police. If you call the police, he'll know where she is. So she was helping out in that regard. And the lady that was helping Katerina was at the shelter was like, the fact of the matter is, you have a past. It's okay. That woman who you were before, she died in that water. Like, that woman who came out is a woman with all new choices in front of her. Because Katerina from before obviously was kind of back into a corner. That's why she did what she did. But now it's like, because people think she's dead, or at least some people dead, until like Velov, you know, figured it out of like, oh, I can't find her body. Oh yeah, she's definitely still alive. It's actually pretty badass of Katerina helping out the lady who is, you know, dealing with her boyfriend. I like that he's telling her to get out of the bathroom, and she just locks the door. She's like, I literally gave you a chance to walk away. Now I wonder, because obviously she was being patient and waiting for her opportunity, and I guess that's what that was, which is kind of sad. But I guess in the end, she helped the lady anyway. It's pretty brutal. Ended up killing him with the spoon. But ended up using his credit card and stuff to pay for the motel that her and her pal Helio met up at, you know? And the moment that happened, now that ended up revealing some very, very interesting information about the fact is, apparently him and Katerina have known each other for a long time. It's like, oh, we promised ourselves to each other. She's like, that was like when we were 6 years old. It's kind of like, a promise is a promise. I'm like, wow. And like, from that point, I'm like, you obviously are Reddington. Well, the new Reddington, the one that's before us now. It's like, man, no wonder you bend over backwards for Katerina. Like, you've probably been in love with her, like, ever since you were a kid. So she means the world to you, you know? Of course, now it kind of adds even more understanding of, like, why you did what you did. Literally being a different person for decades on end. Being a criminal like that for decades on end. Because it wasn't just Katerina that turned her back on everything that she knew. It was also him. All for her. Because obviously we see the whole situation with her mom. I think the falling out that the falling out that she told her husband was obviously a lie. Because I was like, did her and Katerina actually have a falling out? It's like, no, because when her mom was there, she was like, the fact of the matter is, I am on your side. I am always on your side. I guess that was the excuse so she can be like, yeah, not have to tell her husband that, you know, Virginia didn't have to tell her husband the truth about her and Katerina's situation. Because Katerina was like, the fact of the matter is, she brought her mom, you know, into all of this. Tried to got her mom to America with a new identity and everything, because she wanted to protect her. Because it's like, yeah, like the moment they come after me, they're going to come after you, because they're going to assume that you betrayed everything too. Because Katerina was in that tough spot of, obviously, she was with the cabal and that whole situation of betraying her own country. Had they ever explained that? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in that regard of like why Katarina ever joined the cabal. Maybe they brought that up earlier. I don't remember them ever explaining her situation. Maybe she thought she was in the right. Maybe she was being blackmailed. I mean, we never really 100% know why and how anyone gets into the cabal. I don't think that's ever explained how those circumstances exactly go about. Either way, obviously, she also goes to Moscow to rescue her dad, but her dad, obviously, you know, it's like, no, like, his patriotism, you know, obviously, he's like, oh, you're a traitor, so I'll turn you in, but he's like, I got one duty to do, and she's like, yeah, you do, and you'll do it, and he could have turned his daughter in directly, but he was like, yeah, she's here in Russia, but she's not here in this room with me. The fact is she's somewhere else. I can help you set the whole thing up, but they saw through it. Like, even though he was, you know, it's like, oh, you're a traitor, they won't see me as this way. Because like he had said before, like, love is the reason why. Because no matter what she did, no matter how much of a patriot he is and how much he loves his country, the fact of the matter is all that pales in comparison to his love for his daughter. Because she's his one and only child, so of course she would mean the world to him, you know? And so it's interesting. Luckily, her friend showed up in time to save her and her dad from being executed. There was a part of him that wanted to, it's like, when it's all said and done, he thought he could come back, but it's like, Katarina's like, there's no coming back to this, never come back to Russia. The fact of the matter is, Moscow's going to fall, things are going to change, and the fact of the matter is, you know, it's only a matter of time, and you can't ever see Masha anymore either, you know, but, you know, probably even when he made that decision back then, it's a thing, it's something that Reddington had brought up last episode. He's like, sometimes I forget just how much you gave up for all of this. And I think in that moment, it's one thing that, you know, I think it's not till years later when you look back on just realizing after the fact. In that moment, it's like your heart spoke bigger than your mind. His mind probably would have told him, like, oh, like, this is what you're giving up, but his heart didn't care, you know? It's like, it's for my daughter's sake, you know? So when it's all said and done, you even have Katarina, and I thought that's kind of a nice thing for them to include too. Katarina felt bad about this whole Reddington thing. It's like, the fact of the matter is, I used him, manipulated him, and you're going to run his name through the mud. Obviously, they've got all this stuff ready to be used against him to be like, oh, he was a traitor the entire time. They're going to smear his name. He has a wife. He has a daughter. It's like, he didn't know who I really was. Everything is set in motion, and she felt bad about it, because there's even a part of her that's like, maybe we could have pulled Reddington out of that fire. I'm wondering if that would happen to her friend. The reason, because remember, Reddington has scars on his back, so either that is from the fire itself, that he did get caught on fire when they were setting the fire, so there's either that, or maybe it's from the surgeries, or maybe it was just they gave him those burns specifically to make it seem like he was from the fire. I'm assuming it is that, you know, because obviously he was there that night. That's how this whole thing worked. It's because him and Katarina were the only ones that knew Reddington was dead because they were there that night. And I'm assuming, like I said, I figured that's probably what this whole situation was about, to why he came, like the whole fight between Katarina and him. Because obviously both of them loved him. Like, they loved each other at one point in time, but the one thing that stayed true was their love for Liz, Masha. And I'm sure that's what the fight was about that night. It's like, no, like, I'm going to take my daughter away from you. I know who you really are. I'm going to let the truth come out. Obviously, like, Katarina probably couldn't let that happen, because if it did, the cabal would probably come after all three of them, so she's trying to protect her child. And, you know, obviously Liz, thinking like, oh, something's happened to my mom, not understanding the circumstances, ended up shooting her dad and killing him. So, sadly, there's that whole situation, which this whole conversation brings it up. Like I said, Jennifer isn't there anymore, but I'm curious, is Liz going to be okay telling her the truth about everything, like the circumstances about, well, all of this? We'll ultimately have to wait and see, but maybe she won't, because I feel like Jennifer might still want answers, but she just hasn't really, you know, she couldn't be a part of this anymore, so I'm curious, like, whether she'll ever circle back around on that, because I was getting the feeling like Jennifer's going to be a target. Granted, not under the circumstances I thought they would. I thought, like, oh, this end with him going after Jennifer, but now he knows the truth. He had no reason to go after her, but she's kind of a loose end in certain regards in this situation, because obviously she knows that he's not really Reddington, and that could be a whole complication all on its own, depending. I'm curious, are they going to do anything else with Jennifer in the story, at least, you know, this season wise, or going forward? We'll have to wait and see. But it's interesting, because Katarina originally was going to, you know, kill herself, like, you know, try to this time, like, making it look like her friend, like, no, you caught up to me, the fact is we struggled, and so that way he could go back to his life. But he's the one that actually came up with the plan, the whole plan of being Reddington. That was him. That wasn't even Katarina's idea. That's what shocked me, and that was so fascinating. And so he became Reddington, went through so many plastic surgeries because he said, like I said, we promised ourselves to each other, like, promise is a promise. And so that's why he went through all of this, taking the money that they were using to set him up, all 40 million of it, to kind of set things right. And there's also the whole conversation about, well, what about Katerina? Katerina had given her dad and her mom the keys to that mailbox, and basically was like, when the coast was clear, essentially she'd get in contact with them. And so there's a whole thing of like, okay, so I was wondering about the whole her dad and her mom situation, like what the whole letter thing was. It's because her mom was so desperate. She was hoping that, hey, if I send it to this box or whatever, maybe, just maybe, and the way her dad kind of described it, her husband, well, Katerina's dad had described it as kind of like she threw it out there in like a pool. Essentially, it's like a puddle in an ocean, essentially. She was just a desperate woman. She was dying, so she was just desperate, trying to get in contact with her daughter. And basically, they've had these keys for like 28 years, nearly 30 years, and never gotten in contact. Like, if Katerina was around, she would have revealed herself before now, wouldn't she? Or are there things at play? I think, well, obviously, the way things kind of play out, but, obviously, like, Liz obviously has her grandfather. She has her daughter, and now it's like, you guys are the only family I have left, and he wants to be a great grandfather. And she's like, okay, obviously you can be a part of her life, but you're obviously going to have to spoil her. So it's nice to see that family moment between them. Obviously, Liz comes to Reddington about what she knows. She is bringing up, though, she's like, I know the broad strokes and some of the facts, but there's still a million questions I have. But she's like, first and foremost, like, why are you still Reddington? Like, it all worked. You could have just walked away. Because this all was contingent on the fact is that, hey, by being Reddington, you keep the cabal thinking that you're still alive, so that you kind of keep them at bay. They think that he's still out there. Obviously, the whole plan to kind of, turn him into this terrible traitor and stuff like that would discredit anything he says. But this also keeps them off of Katerina's back, because they think, like, oh, Reddington's still out there. But it's like, why, after all this time, are you still pretending to be Reddington? And he's like, because I am who I am. And I guess for him, it's like, I'm no longer who I was back then. This persona that I've become is who I am. And I guess that explains, like, the moment him and Kate met all those years ago. Like, obviously we saw that episode in season 4, like, building up his criminal empire and everything. That was already after he had gotten plastic surgery and everything. So, very fascinating thing. But then there's the thing at the end of Reddington going to her grandfather and being like, what did you tell her? I got the broad strokes, but I need to know exactly what you told her, because you might have caused more harm than good by you telling her the truth. And now that begs the question, because I think there's stuff that even her father doesn't know that Reddington has kept from her, because he probably might know exactly where Katerina is. Like that time he was thinking about Katerina walking into the ocean, it's probably not the thing of like, because obviously he knew she was alive the entire time, but I think the thought process is because for him it's like her walking into that ocean set all of this into motion. And the fact of the matter is, it's like he made a promise to protect Liz like she was his own, and I think that's all in jeopardy, because I think the cabal is the ones behind this whole situation. No, not think. Definitely are behind the whole attack that's coming to the U.S. soil, whatever it ends up being. And this whole thing, the truth being out there about him not being ready to, like, obviously, like, there's still missing pieces to this. That's why he's like, because I think for him, it's like, what exactly did you tell her? Because maybe there's some stuff that's not true about that. Some of the stuff might be stuff he might have filled in himself. Maybe some of that stuff that Reddington told as a lie. I don't know. You would think, because obviously Reddington kept this from her for a reason, because obviously you can tell he's not happy that she knows the truth. He doesn't want her to know the truth. She doesn't need to know the truth. So what is it that Reddington is still hiding from her? What is it that she thinks she knows, but now she doesn't know? Is she going to tell Wrestler the truth? Is she going to tell the rest of the team the truth? I have no idea how this is all going to play out. We obviously only have like a couple episodes left this season, right? Because there's usually like 20 some episodes. Like I think it's like 22 a season or whatever. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this whole situation plays out. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.